I pulled up slow, tires crunching over the same gravel driveway I grew up on, that ugly gray stretch leading to the oversized colonial house up in northern Connecticut. The place looked exactly the same, down to the cracked bird bath and the rose bush my mom still trimmed every Sunday. It was their 40th anniversary. Big deal, apparently. 100 people invited, full catering, tent in the backyard, valet parking, like a movie set. I was in a gray sport coat and slacks, nothing fancy. I knew better than to draw attention. My mom always liked it better when I didn't. I'd barely killed the engine when Nate pulled up right behind me. Silver Lexus, fresh wax, license plate frame that read, "Design is life." He got out grinning, sunglasses still on, even though it was dusk, and popped his collar like he was walking into a campaign rally. Dad stepped out the front door at the same time, arms wide like a preacher spotting a miracle. "There's the heart of this family," he shouted across the lawn, already moving to hug Nate. I got a pat, barely a second of eye contact. "Hey, Eric, glad you made it," he mumbled, already glancing back toward the Lexus. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Inside, the place looked like a hotel ballroom. They'd rented out furniture, draped everything in white and gold. Some kind of soft string quartet played in the corner, which didn't fit at all with the crowd. The whole house smelled like rented flower arrangements and cologne. I headed for the coat rack and barely got mine off before my mom appeared. Tight smile, hands brushing invisible lint off my shoulders. "Oh, good, you didn't wear black. That can look so severe in photos." "No photos for me," I said. She didn't even hear it, or pretended not to. "Seating charts up in the foyer. You're near the kitchen. I put you with a few finance folks you should connect with." She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like shoving me next to the busboy was somehow networking. I glanced over. Head table was front and center. A long oak beast, polished until it reflected every light in the room. Nate's name was dead center beside theirs, in a thick gold script card. "Of course," I muttered. "What's that?" my mom asked. "Nothing," I smiled. "Happy anniversary." I walked toward the posted chart while Nate leaned in for photos, grinning with his arm around Mom like it was his wedding. The ballroom lights dimmed just a little, and some guy on a headset cued music like we were at a wedding. There were chandeliers everywhere, not even joking, full-on crystal dripping from the tent ceiling like we were inside a snow globe. White roses covered every table. They had folded cloth napkins shaped like birds. Some guy was carving roast duck at a station near the champagne wall. It was so over the top, it felt like a rich couple's vow renewal, not two retirees with a Costco wine cabinet and a backyard koi pond. People kept crowding around Nate like he was the damn groom. "Oh, Nate, you designed the invitations yourself? This playlist is incredible. Did you curate this too?" Even the caterer asked if he wanted the lighting changed on the head table to accentuate the aesthetic, whatever that meant. Nate just smiled like a used car ad come to life, hand on his heart, tilted head, all charm and fake humility. The guy freelanced off and on, designed logos for some podcast once, charged $500 for a watercolor portrait of someone's labradoodle. Meanwhile, I had 12 full-time drivers on payroll and managed 3 regional warehouses. But sure, Nate was the creative genius. I stood near the bar, sipping something with a fancy orange peel in it, watching the waiter bring out champagne flutes to every table. My table, near the kitchen, got served last. Then came the toast. Dad stood up at the head table, cleared his throat, clinked his glass, and grinned wide like he'd been waiting months to say his lines. 40 years! That's not something many couples get to celebrate. Everyone clapped. Mom dabbed her eyes with a cloth napkin. Dad kept going. And if there's one thing I've learned in these 40 years, it's that life is made richer by family, especially when you have someone like Nathan, with his creativity, his charm, his eye for detail, his big heart, his gift for bringing people together. That was 5. And his sense of style, Dad added, chuckling as he reached 6. I mean, come on, this suit? He gestured at Nate like they'd rehearsed it. Laughter, more clapping. I raised my glass out of habit, but I didn't drink. Not one word about me. Not one. No, Eric built his company from the ground up. No, Eric took care of us during Mom's hip surgery. No, Eric's logistics firm just expanded across 2 states. Just silence. The whole table leaned in as Nate stood and said, I've got something special for you, too. A waiter wheeled over a covered frame the size of a small TV. Nate pulled the sheet off like a magician, revealing a massive photo collage. It was mostly pictures of him. Nate as a toddler between mom and dad on the beach. Nate holding up his college acceptance letter. Nate with mom at some art show. Nate on dad's boat. One photo, just one, had me in it. Blurry in the background at some cookout, half out of frame. Mom gasped like it was the Mona Lisa. Nathan, this is stunning. Oh, sweetheart. People awed like it was a proposal. Someone even wiped a tear. Then Dad pulled out a little velvet box and said, "And we've got something for you too, son." I leaned forward. Son. Singular. He opened the box, revealing a chunky silver watch with emerald detail around the face. Some Swiss import brand. I didn't catch the name, but the thing sparkled like it cost a mortgage. "This," Dad said, "is for our legacy." "For Nathan?" The crowd clapped. I stared at my plate. My chicken was cold. No plaque, no toast, no gesture, nothing. Just more noise about Nate's eye for detail, while the guy didn't even notice the watch was on, backwards when he put it on. I stood up and walked out without touching the food. I pushed through the French doors on the side of the house and stepped onto the porch like I was coming up for air. The fake laughter and clinking glasses inside sounded muffled now, like I'd shut the lid on a box I didn't ask to be part of. The air outside was cool, heavy with pine and distant grill smoke. I loosened my collar, leaned on the railing, and just breathed. A second later, I heard heels on the wood behind me. "Had to escape the coronation?" Aunt Carol asked, glass of red in hand. I nodded. "If he gets any more praise, someone's going to name a star after him." She chuckled, then leaned close. "You'd think Nate cured cancer the way they talk." That made me snort, sharp and bitter. She took a sip, watching the trees like she didn't want to look me in the eye for what she said next. "You know your dad paid for that Bali trip, right? The one Nate said he traded design work for?" I turned. "Wait, he didn't pay for that himself?" Carol scoffed. "Eric, come on. He hasn't paid for much of anything since college. Your dad covers his rent, helped him out with the car too. That fancy Lexus, not as self-made as he lets on." I just stared at her. She kept going. "And before you ask, yes, your mom knows. She pretends he's just figuring it out still." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "I landed a citywide contract in June. You know what they put in the family newsletter that month?" Carol raised an eyebrow. "Nate's art show," I said. "The one with 5 people, and 2 of them were stoned college kids who thought it was a bar." She winced. "That was brutal." Didn't stop them from calling it a promising debut. Carol leaned on the rail beside me. "You know they don't do it to hurt you, right? They just live in their own little Nate bubble." "Yeah," I muttered. "One I've never been allowed in." My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Alex, how's the throne room?" Another text followed right after. "We're grabbing burgers later. Your seat's open." I stared at the screen for a few seconds, thumb hovering. "Everything okay?" Carol asked. I pocketed the phone. "Yeah, just reminders there's life outside this circus." She tapped her glass against mine. "Glad someone sees it." Inside, I heard another round of applause. Nate's voice rose above it, thanking everyone like he'd just won a damn Emmy. Carol rolled her eyes. "I'm headed back in before your mother notices I'm gone. You staying out here?" "For a bit." She walked off, leaving a faint trail of perfume and Pinot behind. I looked up at the sky. No stars yet, just clouds. That was fine. For a minute, I thought about leaving for good, but I wasn't done yet. I stepped back inside just as someone announced, "Photos on the staircase." The smell of lilies and overcooked duck hit me again, thick and cloying. Voices bounced off the high ceilings like we were in a hotel lobby. The crowd moved in a lazy wave toward the grand staircase, the one my mom always called the centerpiece of the house. She stood near the bottom, clipboard in hand like a cruise director. "Okay, let's start with couples," she called out, waving her hand like royalty. "Then friends, then let's get one of the family, just the 3 of us." I froze mid-step. The 3 of us. Nate was already halfway up the stairs, smoothing his jacket, sliding right into place between them, like this was routine. Mom fixed his collar. Dad put a hand on his back. They smiled wide. I stayed where I was, not even pretending this wasn't personal anymore. The photographer raised his camera. "Hold it right there. Big smiles." Flash, flash, flash. The sound snapped something in me. A couple feet away, I heard someone, one of Mom's wine club friends maybe, whisper to another guest. Wait, where's the older brother? Nobody answered. Nobody even looked in my direction. I wasn't across the room. I was right there, plain view, hands in my pockets, and still invisible. The photographer lowered his camera and started flipping through the shots on the screen. Nate leaned over to check them out, laughing like a celebrity reviewing headshots. I didn't argue. I didn't clear my throat. I didn't ask if they wanted one more. I just stood there, watching the photo that would hang above the fireplace get taken, like I didn't exist. Mom stepped aside to check her clipboard again. Okay, let's bring in extended family next. I waited for the photographer to call me over. He didn't. I waited for Mom or Dad to glance my way, maybe wave me in. They didn't. So I turned and walked, straight past the string quartet, past the catering table, past the couple near the hallway who were still murmuring about the missing brother. No one stopped me, not one hand on my shoulder, not one, "Eric, where are you going?" Nothing. Just the sound of that camera clicking away behind me. I hit the foyer, grabbed my coat off the hook, and stepped out the front door. The porch lights had come on. Crickets buzzed in the bushes. The air felt cooler now, like the house had been sucking all the oxygen out of me for hours, and I finally caught my breath. My phone buzzed again. Alex, still grabbing burgers if you're down. Bring your appetite. I texted back 2 words. Be there. I didn't slam the door behind me, didn't peel out of the driveway or leave tire marks. I just left. Because it was done. So was I. Instead of heading straight to my truck, I turned and walked back around the side of the house. Porch lights glowed warm behind the curtains. Laughter floated out of the dining room, distant, fake, like background noise from a bad sitcom. I let myself in through the garage and took the back staircase, the one no one used anymore. It creaked under my weight, like the house itself wasn't sure if I belonged here. Upstairs, I stopped outside what used to be my room. The door had a shiny little plaque now. Guest suite. Please enjoy your stay. I pushed it open. Gone was the twin bed, the corkboard, the baseball posters. The whole place had been redone. White linens, blackout curtains, expensive candles. On the walls, movie posters, framed, artsy crap Nate liked. Cinematic icons or whatever. I opened the closet, one box, top shelf, labeled in Sharpie, Misk. Eric. I pulled it down and set it on the bed. Dust flew up like it hadn't been touched in years. Inside was my high school diploma, a trophy from the logistics competition I won in '06, and my old Eagle Scout badge, all crammed together like someone packed them in a rush and never looked back. No frame, no care, just leftovers. I leaned back against the headboard and stared at the ceiling for a second. Then I glanced under the bed. Don't know why. Instinct, maybe. There it was. An old, beat-up hardcover, Endurance, the one about Shackleton. I pulled it out, wiped the dust off, and opened the front cover. For Eric, you've got what it takes. You just don't need a spotlight to prove it. Grandpa. My throat tightened. That handwriting, loopy, messy, all heart. He'd given that to me on my 18th birthday. As I flipped the book over, a folded letter slid out from between the pages, yellowed, creased. I unfolded it with both hands, careful. Eric, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I always knew you'd find this book again when you needed to. I want you to know, I saw what you were building long before anyone else did. You don't need to compete with noise. You've got the substance. That lasts. I set something aside just for you, not the showboat. The rest of it, that goes where it needs to. But this part, it's yours. It's waiting. Access code's the date of our last fishing trip. You remember the one. Just you and me, no distractions. You caught that ugly catfish and said it was the best day of your life. It was mine too. Love you, kid. Grandpa, I sat there holding that letter like it weighed more than the whole box. The date came to me instantly. Late July. The summer before college. I shoved the letter into my pocket and stood up. Nate could keep the guest suite, the watch, the damn collage. Grandpa left me something, and I wasn't about to let that sit forgotten under a bed. I tucked the letter into my jacket pocket, grabbed the box under one arm, and walked out of that house without a sound. No goodbyes, no second looks. By the time I hit I-91, the tension in my chest started to ease. The roads were quiet. No champagne buzz or fake applause, just the hum of tires and the steady beat of my turn signal as I pulled into the parking lot of Miller's Pub downtown. Alex spotted me through the window and waved me over. Our usual crew was already inside. Kayla, Jonah, Tiff, all at the corner booth with a pitcher half gone and plates of fries between them. Real people. People who'd shown up when I had nothing but a clipboard and a rented van. I slid into the booth across from Alex. He looked up from his burger. "You look like someone just dug up buried treasure." "In a way," I said, setting the letter down on the table. "You're not going to believe this." I told them everything. The watch, the just the three of us photo, the box labeled MISC, Eric. Then I told them about Grandpa's letter, the trust, the access code. Alex didn't even blink. "We've always seen what they didn't," he said. "This just proves it." Jonah leaned in. "They really left you out of the photo?" I nodded. Kayla muttered, "That's ice cold." Tiff lifted her glass. "To Grandpa, the only one in that house with working eyes." We all drank to that. A few weeks later, the deal finally cleared. 12 months of negotiations. 3 law firms, 2 deadbeat middlemen. And it was done. White Logistics officially merged with Patterson Freight Group. We were now co-owners of a $60 million operation, full regional control across New England. By noon, the press releases were out. Quiet Connecticut logistics firm closes massive expansion deal. That was one headline. Built, not bought. Eric White's rise in the freight world. That was another. My phone didn't stop buzzing. LinkedIn blew up. Emails, calls, even some old clients trying to get meetings they'd ghosted me on 2 years ago. Then the text came in. "Nate, whoa, congrats, man. You should have told us, like we talk." Like he didn't just watch me vanish from his victory parade 2 nights ago. I left it on red. Then one from Mom. "Mom, can we talk about this before people start asking us questions?" That one made me laugh. Us. As if I'd ever been part of that side of the equation. I locked the screen, set the phone face down on my desk, and went back to reviewing the onboarding deck for our new regional team. That day wasn't about them. It was about this. What I'd built, who stood with me when it actually mattered, and what came next. That was going to be on my terms. I booked the private room at the Meridian for Friday night. Classy place, dark wood, quiet lighting, white tablecloths. The kind of place Dad used to call too buttoned up when I was younger, which made it perfect. I showed up 20 minutes early, pressed navy suit, polished shoes. I had my notes, my card, and 0 expectations. My assistant, Jenna, sat to my right with her tablet open, mostly for show, partly because she insisted on handling optics. At 6:42, they walked in. Mom's heels clicked hard against the floor. Nate strolled in behind her, still wearing that designer smugness. Dad looked like he wasn't sure why we were meeting, which was about right. They all froze when they saw Jenna. "Who's this?" Mom asked, taking off her sunglasses indoors. "My assistant," I said, calm. "She's fine." They sat down, still confused. Dad didn't wait long. "So, why the secrecy? Why didn't you tell us about the deal?" Mom cut in. "You blindsided us, Eric. You just disappeared from the party. People were asking questions, and we didn't know what to say." Nate leaned back in his chair. "Seriously, man, a heads up would have been nice." I looked at all 3 of them, no rush. "You want to know why I left?" I asked. "Why I didn't tell you anything?" They waited. "Because I've spent 20 years being second in my own family," I said, steady. "Every event, every dinner, every conversation, Nate gets the spotlight. I show up, build a business from scratch, keep my head down, and it's like I'm furniture." Mom shifted. "That's not fair." "Let me finish." I kept my voice low but firm. "The photo, the one you called just the 3 of us, that was the moment. That told me exactly where I stand." Nate looked away. "And the watch," I added. "Real subtle. To our legacy, Nathan. Like, I'm not even part of the damn bloodline." Dad exhaled hard. "You're reading too much into it." "No," I said, leaning forward. "I'm not reading into anything. I lived it, for decades. You just never noticed." Silence. Mom blinked fast, like she might speak, but didn't. I pulled out a business card from my pocket and slid it across the table. White Logistics Solutions. Eric White, co-founder and CEO. I just closed a $60 million acquisition, I said. And I did it without a trust fund, without applause, and without a family newsletter. Mom's mouth actually dropped open. Dad sat back, like someone had knocked the wind out of him. Nate stared at the card. You could see it on his face, a slow shift, like something just clicked that he didn't want to see before. I let them sit with it, then I stood up, buttoned my jacket. If we're going to have a relationship going forward, I said, looking right at them, it'll be as equals. No more pedestal for Nate. No more pat-on-the-head treatment for me. I've earned better. I paused. If that doesn't work for you, don't call me unless it's an emergency. I nodded to Jenna. She stood up, grabbed her tablet, and followed me out. Not one of them said a word as I left. 6 months later, I was flipping burgers in my backyard, tongs in one hand, beer in the other, wearing a hoodie stained with grill smoke and mustard. Nothing fancy, just good food, loud music, and people who actually gave a damn. The old dining table sat under the covered patio now. Solid oak, heavy as hell. Mine. Picked it up cheap at the estate sale after Dad downsized and moved to some condo near the coast. Above it hung a photo in a simple black frame. Me and Grandpa side by side on his fishing boat, rods in hand, grinning like idiots. No polished smiles, no matching outfits, just real. Inside, my team filled the kitchen and spilled onto the porch. The real family I'd built. We'd just launched our mentorship program for young logistics entrepreneurs. Already had 10 applicants lined up. Alex clinked his bottle against mine. Never thought I'd see that old table at a cookout again, he said. I smirked. Never thought I'd be the one hosting it. Our lead engineer, Michelle, stepped forward holding something flat, wrapped in brown paper. Alex grinned. We figured it was time you had something for the office. I tore the paper off. A wooden plaque, burned in bold black letters. Built, not handed. For a second, I didn't say anything, just nodded and shook their hands one by one. No speeches, no toast, just respect. I stepped out onto the lawn, watching the sun dip low behind the trees. The sky was streaked with orange and red, and the air smelled like charcoal and fresh grass. No one here was measuring my worth. No comparisons, no tests to pass. My phone buzzed. Nate. Hey, saw the article about your program. Looks awesome. Hope you're doing good. Short, simple. He was trying, I think. A few messages before that. Mostly quiet. Then I scrolled back to one from Mom. A single line. We miss you. I hadn't answered. Still wasn't sure if I would. I pulled my wallet from my back pocket, flipped it open, and took out the photo I carried now. Me and Grandpa standing in front of the first blueprint of the warehouse. He had one hand on my shoulder. I had dirt on my shirt and plans in my grip. I smiled, not because they finally saw me, but because I stopped needing them to.